A teacher said to me that to keep your production going, you need to keep always tabs on where your joy lies in the making. Because in the end, that's why we got into it. Well, my dad was a contractor, and so I grew up around tools and building a lot. So I learned, to put up wallpaper, in 9th grade and 10th grade. He's like, take this old barn wood and build a hamper. I didn't know what I was doing. I was terrified, but I was also trying to please him. So I learned how to build stuff. My pivotal moment, yes, was me and a bunch of friends set up a non-for-profit community arts space at the University of Vermont. It was so impactful to culture. I was like, wow, creativity actually does more, or does a lot. So generative. So that gave me the permission to study art. So then I went to art school. There was a point where I had a gallery in Germany and a gallery in LA at the same time. And that was really exciting, and I felt pretty secure. And I was getting these larger commissions. It was just something in my life needed to use my own voice and acknowledge that, my own existence in the world. I think the Gold House piece was my response to that. I had a house. We were having trouble with our mortgage. I'm talking about other people. Well, why am I trying to tell other people's story? Tell my own story. I brought the idea of my own feelings and my own psychological understanding while I was processing social dynamics. Things got really hot, and the law kind of came in to remove me. And so it was just me alone, and I became subject. So that was the transition. Suzanne, she thought she was going to demolish her house, so she let me do what I wanted. And so I spray painted the interior. At that point, I was in my divorce, and so I really was working from that place of sadness. I made clay casts of people's bodies in particular poses, like being pregnant and sitting in the kitchen at a chair, or the way Lee would lie down and take a nap. I think the paint and the language was my own sadness for letting go of a dream. The body has a story. I want that story. And that brought me to performance work, that I had to represent my own way of moving, my own, notation of existence had to be there because it was the holder of these stories. So I did the performance piece on the LA River. There's this idea of come to the table to talk about people who are displaced because of all this new construction. Then I did the piece in the Salton Sea, which was a performance where I went to these geothermal springs and found this gorgeous space that looked like the primordial soup. So I pretty much did an act of regeneration and alchemical transformation by being in this sulfur bed, which I recorded. I'm working on a project with Land Again in Shamim, and I've actually produced a small foundry where I'm melting low temperature metals and merging that with ceramic objects and other objects. Now that I've moved to my home, so I'm using my home as that base. ArtCenter gave me a class about 4 years ago to teach for my practice. I started bringing in this idea of social practice in tandem with our own subjectivity. And then I was given the opportunity to do a class in socially engaged art. Our last project, we worked with ECF, the Exceptional Children's Foundation, which is an organization that works with developmentally disabled adults. How the students integrate themselves in the world is what this class is in a nutshell. It is the shift from exclusively using yourself as source to working outward. I think teaching is satisfying a lot of my dedication to being socially involved and giving to the outer world. I'm learning so much about ways to listen, which I hadn't been as good at before and still need to work on. So I think it's helping me to be a better person. So it brings me into a more mature place as an educator too, right? I don't have to know it all.